everybody, it's KayBeast, and I'm happy to announce that this month I'm going to be doing my very first Artist Alley. It's in Nashua, New Hampshire at the public library. It's called the Nashua City Comic Fest. It's on June 23rd from 12 to 7. So if you're in the New England area, in and around Nashua, New Hampshire, around that time, please come check it out and come support me and say hello, because I'm really excited about this. So because I'm doing my very first Artist Alley, I thought it would be fun to sort of document the whole process of how I got things together, how I decided to do this particular convention, where I found it, where I found all my supplies, my merch, and then the actual convention itself, because I really wanted to share this with you guys, and I thought it would be kind of fun to do that. I also thought it would be fun to put together something of like how to do your first Artist Alley from like a beginner's perspective. There's a whole bunch of resources available from people who've been doing it for a long time, which is great. You definitely want some advice from people who know what they're doing and have done it before, which is what I used. But sometimes that can also be a little overwhelming because they have resources that a beginner may not have access to, usually like funds and things like that. So I thought it would be good to show you how I put my first one together, because I had a very limited budget, and I imagine a lot of people doing their very first Artist Alley probably has a similar problem of limited funds. So I was still able to put something good together. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. So a couple of things before I get to my online resources that I thought would be good to share is when you're doing your very first Artist Alley, you definitely want to focus on three things, which is the size of the convention, the cost of the convention, and its location, because that will definitely factor in how much money you wind up putting into the thing, and that was what I kept in mind when I picked the convention that I chose. So for me, I needed something that was very small, it was very cheap, and it was local, because I couldn't afford a hotel. I didn't want to spend way too much money on gas. I didn't have a lot of money to get a lot of merch, so something small, and table fees can be kind of big depending on what you're doing. So the Nashua City Comic Fest worked for me because it's a one-day convention. It's at a public library. There was no table fee, so the table was free. And Nashua is within driving distance to me. I live in Western Massachusetts, but the week before this convention, I'm going to be house sitting for a friend who lives in Lowell, which is literally like a 30-minute drive to Nashua. So it kind of lined up perfectly. So that's why this convention worked for me. Okay, first off, I set up my bookmarks at the top of my browser in a very specific way to help me find certain things, and all of my convention-related stuff is under my Art Resources tab, and then you go further, it says Artist Alley Ref, and then I have I have a tab that has all the conventions that I would like to apply to. They're all local conventions. I have one for merch for certain printing services and other things for places I may want to get stuff made, and then I have my list of resources that are sort of generic at the bottom. Okay, so first I'm going to start off with the list of a few websites that have some tips and things about Artist Alleys, how to get started, where to get things, questions that they answer, stuff like that. Most of them are on Tumblr. That's where I found them a few years ago. One of the big ones is How to Be a Con Artist at .tumblr.com. I will put a link to every resource in the description below, by the way. This is my go-to one because they reblog stuff from other Tumblrs as well. They answer questions, they have a really useful tag system, and they have a lot of great information on there. So if you want to be involved in any Artist Alleys, I highly recommend following this blog or bookmarking it because they're very good. Another big sort of generic Artist Alley help blog on Tumblr is AA Toast. This one seems to be more centered around Canadian conventions, whereas How to Be a Con Artist is kind of overall, but seems to more focused on the United States, at least from what I saw. But AA Toast seems to be more focused around Canadian conventions, so they definitely have a lot of good resources if you're in that area. And then a few places that are run by individual people. JoJo's Story on Tumblr. She's an artist that I found, and she has a really useful tag of Artist Alley tips. I got my list of Artist Alley basics from her, and I used that as my base, and then tweaked it, which I will discuss in another video, but she's a good source as well. Also is Angry Artist Alley, which is run by Jackie Low Art, and she's got a lot of great list of articles on different things related to Artist Alleys. One of the big things when you're doing your very first Artist Alley that I saw is you picking a good one to start with. So for me, three things that I was concerned about was size, price, and location. So how big is the convention? How much is a table cost? Where is it? So I needed it to be cheap, I needed it to be small, and I needed it to be local for my very first one. So a couple of websites that I used in order to locate conventions around me was conventionscene.com, upcomingcons.com, and then Artist Alley Confidential, which has great resources in general, but they also have a tab that's just for conventions themselves. So I don't actually have the website bookmarked where I found the very first convention I'm doing, but it was a website like this. If you go to Google and you just type in Comic-Cons or comic conventions near me, and you'll eventually find one. But you want something small, you want something local, you want something cheap if you're testing it for the first time. So like I mentioned, I'm doing the Nashua City Comic Fest. It's in Nashua, New Hampshire. It's one day, it's run by a public library, and the table was free. So really good as a starter convention, basically, because all I had to buy was the table stuff and the merch. Okay, so I really hope that was helpful for all of you. Again, every link that I visited, hopefully I will have linked in the description below. If I missed any, please let me know. And again, I'm doing the Nashua City Comic Fest on June 23rd, and the rest of this series will continue with where I got my merch, where I got my display stuff, how I put it together, stuff like that. So please keep an eye out. And yeah, I hope you guys like this series. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.